Right, it should be about 30 seconds. Perfect. So I think we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Online Events Made Simple. We're episode 25 today, which I cannot believe. We are joined today with the Global Marketing Director of Unruly, Lou Nylander. Lou, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Rianne. Thanks for having me. My name's Lou Nylander, and yes, as Rianne said, I'm the Global Marketing Director at Unruly. Unruly is a video ad tech company, and our mission is that we want to transform advertising for the better.
Super exciting. So Unruly is such a great brand. I've had a little look into it, and I mean, you've worked with some amazing brands, so we really appreciate you coming on today. What do you actually do at Unruly? Give our audience, a little brief. I know you could probably talk forever about it.
Yeah, Unruly is like it's like I always say it's like a magic box. You open it and then more and more things spring out. But in a nutshell, just so that everybody understands, we have technology which allows publishers to monetize, make money from video adverts on their website. So we work with some of the leading brands in the UK and globally. But for instance, we've got an exclusive partnership with News UK. So our video ads are on the Times, they're on the Sun, so sort of publishers of that ilk. And then we also work with advertisers and brands. So an advertiser or a brand might come to us and they might have a great advert and they might want to know, who do I need to target? Who do I need to get that advert in front of us? And a cool thing that we've got at Unruly is we've got our own proprietary technology called EQ, which stands for emotional quotient.
Oh, I love
what that does is it looks at what types of websites and what type of content will really resonate with consumers. So it's kind of like, it's the holy grail really, because we're working with the publishers and we can help them with their content so that they can make that more emotional. And then we're also working with the brands to make sure that they can test their ads and target them to exactly the audience that it's going to really be powerful for.
Amazing. And I know we were just having a really brief conversation and I said Unruly sounds just so interesting, and you said it's not the typical kind of, it's not the typical marketing, and you don't have a typical, events or marketing background. How did you kind of start up in the industry? Because I think a lot of people are, keen to hear.
Yeah, sure. Like for me, when I'm recruiting people for my team and what I want to do, my thing is all about like passion and ability versus having to have this, cookie cutter type experience. And that kind of works for me. But Unruly is a really sort of agile company. So you need people who are involved that just are willing to sort of like pivot and change and sort of just get involved, and that's kind of what I expect of people on my team as well. But I actually started out working my first foray into the world of work was actually working in book publishing. So I worked in book publishing.
So different, yeah.
I worked in book publishing for a year. So I used to read manuscripts, edit them. We had a sort of writers competition. I used to read the entries for the writers competition and then put people forward to be like selected, and they potentially could get a publishing contract. So I started off doing that. I did that for not too long, because although I did enjoy it, I knew it wasn't my passion, and I really wanted to get into sort of like advertising, marketing, like that sort of sphere. I started my career as a media planner. So media planners are people that buy the plan and buy the advertising spots. So people, if you're not in the world, people don't really know this, but so you've got the people that create the adverts, but you've also got the people that buy the media to make sure that the adverts are hitting the right people, and that's what media planning does, and it's a multi-million billion probably pound dollar industry. And so I started off, I worked at a company, it was a subsidiary of a company called Zenith Optimedia, which still exists, or I think everyone calls it Zenith now. And I worked for a little part of it called Zed, and Zed was the digital arm, because at that point, digital was seen as something slightly different. And so I worked in that part, and I started off my career doing the media planning for L'Oreal. So I worked on Maybelline, Garnier, And yeah, I planned out the digital campaigns. It was a great time because it was when things were just like, I remember when Twitter launched, because Twitter didn't exist, and then it came, and then we started doing some campaigns on this thing called Twitter, and it was about birds, and we were like, what is this? I had a meeting with the founders of Spotify, because at that point they were the ones going around evangelizing about their own products, and I had a free Spotify account for like donkey's years. I pay for my one now.
Yeah.
I kind of started off like that, and in terms of how I pivoted into ending up working in events, I'd worked in the agency, so I said I started off as a media planner. I worked in the agency world for coming up to about 8 years. And I'm going to be honest, it just started. I started to become very frustrated. I became frustrated because, as an agency, not always, but sometimes you're at the beck and call of clients, and sometimes actually maybe you might think the client strategy isn't what they should be doing, but you've only got so much sway and so much power.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought I need to do something where I'm in the driving seat more. So I decided to go and work for a technology company. It's changed its name multiple times since I've worked there. But when I worked there, it was a company called AOL, which people know because it had that dial-up sort of, and it had Connie and stuff like that. So for certain people, if you're a certain age, AOL is synonymous with how you used to get on the internet, the dial-up internet era, before we had like sort of Wi-Fi. I didn't have Wi-Fi then. So I started working for there, and I went over there basically because they were looking for somebody from an agency background, but that was going to help the sales team to put together collateral and later events and stuff like that would resonate with media planners. And because I used to be a media planner, I kind of knew what needed to do that. And that's kind of how I basically segued into trade marketing and where I am now. And yeah, so I'm really, I oversee the global marketing strategy. I do a lot of our events planning. We used to have event specialists. We don't necessarily have those anymore. We do have people in the team that have strong skill sets in certain areas. So I can do events, but I also could write and do content and do budget planning and strategy as well. I have certain members of my team that have got dual skill sets, and that's what I mean about us being really agile. Like, we like people that can do multiple things because it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. And it just shows you don't need a massive team, you know, just train your staff in multiple things. That's a really good tip there for event organizers. Yeah,
no, definitely. And I think genuinely, I know this is going to sound a little bit harsh, but I think it's true. So, you know, we're entering a world where, especially for if you're in the corporate world, but even in the startup world, there's not a lot of cash at the moment. We may be going into a global recession. So, you know, you've got to think about how you can be the best sort of really maximize your skill set and your ability to do things, so that instead of having to employ 2 people, your company can only employ 1. You know, and I'm not saying this so that you're exploited, by the way. I'm saying it to keep you in a job, because I'm just going to be honest. Like, you know, if times get hard and you're looking at areas where your resources come into mind, I'm going to keep the person that can do the most things, and to the best of their ability. So I think it's just about being pragmatic, even though that you know, it's a bit of a to bring up, but
that's a really good tip.
It's just being honest.
Absolutely. And look, it's been a crazy year. We were just discussing before we went live how strange this new world is. How at Unruly have you kind of adjusted your marketing strategy? I'm assuming, you know, you've had to adjust it quite a lot.
Yeah, we have actually. And I didn't actually realize how much we had done until recently. We did I say we have something called a marketing summit. We do them every quarter with the team, and we go and we try and make it work for different time zones, because I do have a global team. So we try and make that work. Sometimes, unfortunately, for some of the staff members, it's not great. They have to be up very early or very late. The guys in London, we manage to do all right. But yeah, so we did a recap of all of our activity that we did this year. The team actually put it together and presented it to the directors in the team. And one of the things that actually really shone out for me is actually the sheer amount of work that we've done, and how we've learned and pivoted at every stage, and how we've taken the learnings from, our shaky start into virtual events, where we didn't know what platforms to use. We didn't really know how to record. We didn't know how to run a show. We didn't know, we didn't know about how to do the briefings. We kind of took it on, where we were just basically trying to replicate what we would have done in the offline world and put it online. And then we were like, oh shoot, that's probably not the best way of doing it.
That's a really good tip. I think a lot of people are replicating their live events to go online, and they're starting to realize, it's not the same, it doesn't work, and it can take more planning. How did you go about choosing platforms? Because that's a really big question at the moment. There's so many out there.
Yeah, there's so many out there. So I'm going to be honest, when we first started, I had no clue. And I'm not going to lie, I was petrified. I genuinely was petrified. That I have to admit, I was saying, we were having a quick chat earlier, and I said, I'm genuinely most of the time quite an optimist. I'm always like, just be positive. If you be positive and throw it out to the universe and everything. And I, for ages, couldn't get my head around the fact that I wasn't going to go to Cannes, and because we always go to Cannes most years, and that big events that I'd spent however long planning and had all these things in my head, or in some cases already planned, written down, paid for, in some cases weren't going to happen. And it took me ages, Rhiannon. It took me so long to really accept that. But once we did accept it, we started to do research, find out, get meetings with people. And actually, I wasn't afraid to message people that if I'd seen a great event online and I sort of knew that company or knew someone at that company, I'd kind of message and be like, hi, I saw your webinar that you did. Would it be okay if we had a quick 15-minute Zoom call or Teams or whatever conferencing tool?
Absolutely.
Can we have a chat? I haven't done it yet, and I need to do it. And that was really helpful to me. And I would say, don't be afraid to reach out to people. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they're afraid of, find me on LinkedIn, you're afraid of doing it. I think don't be.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I think it can be quite a scary time to try and pivot, but there's so much information out there now, and this year kind of has been the year of sharing. So there's always someone there to help. And if you're an event organizer listening now, reach out to Lou, find out what she did and what Unruly did, and there are people out there to help, isn't there?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's people out there to help, and there's also a wealth of companies. There's so many event organizers that used to do live events, but now finding themselves falling on hard times. However, they have the skill sets to help you, right? So, one of the things that I realized is that virtual events need a lot of preparation to make sure that they run smoothly. And next year, and we got it all done just with hacks and Zoom accounts and upgrading Zoom accounts and stuff like that. But next year, actually, we're building in conjunction with one of our live events partner, our own branded platform where it's going to have polling on it. And because I think 2020 was the year of the hack, right? It was very much we're all just happy to be alive and surviving, so, and in a job still. So that was fine for sort of some of the sort of more event hacks and things that weren't necessarily the client experience that you would be looking for in a live event, right?
Absolutely.
But I don't think it's acceptable just to keep saying, oh, it's 2020 and like, let's just do it this way. Like, we've got to evolve. Like, we know now, especially if you're in London, where I'm based in into tier 4, that you know, we're not going to be going back to a live event scene in the same way for quite a while, and we just need to accept that now. But it's not acceptable to not give your clients the same type of experience. So you've just got to adapt and change.
Completely agree. And in terms of your clients, how has communicating with them been? It must be quite tricky, you know, saying, oh, live events, all of this, and then all of a sudden actually we're doing virtual and our marketing strategy is changing.
I think like one of the things that we've always been great at Unruly is client entertainment, client experience, and social media. We're a quirky brand, we're a B2B brand, but for me, like, we kind of behave like we are a B2C brand in some instances, and that's kind of it's one of the main reasons why I really love my job, because I don't have a boring sort of B2B marketing mindset. I can kind of we do some kind of zany things, but I love it. I love the fact, so previously, like for client entertaining or at Christmas, we got a choir to go around to all our agency partners and sing in their receptions, give out gifts and stuff like that. Well, we haven't been able to do that this year. So I got the same choir that we usually use, UK soul choirs, and I got them to record a Christmas carol for our clients. And then I also got a couple of Unrulies to guest star in it to make so that they, like, people would see people that they knew in it. And then we also got photographs of our Unruly staff celebrating their Christmas celebrations, but also other religious holidays, or just holidays that people celebrated. So we had some Chinese New Year pictures of our staff members. We've had some family pictures of people putting up their Christmas trees on the first weekend of December. And so for me, like, you know, it's just about finding a way to resonate with clients in a way that makes it comfortable. Because another thing is that we're all at home, right? I don't want lots of marketing messages or lots of stuff sent to my home, because it's my home, and I don't mind people sending me stuff or sort of, you know, merchandise or things like that in the office, because that's my place of work. So it's also understanding people's mindset and thinking about how you feel, and trying to work out a way that works, and you can still get in front of your clients, or do gifting or merchandising or events or something like that, but also give them stuff that's helpful. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is give people the ability to go online and order certain things for themselves. We've created branded websites where clients can put in their address. It's GDPR compliant.
That's so nice.
So they get a gift, or if they don't want a gift, they can donate to the amount of charities that we're supporting. And we do stuff that in conjunction with events too. So if we've got an event on and it's going to be in the morning, then we might gift our clients a certain amount of money to do a Deliveroo or Uber Eats or whatever food delivery service, and get them to order breakfast so they can have breakfast and do the event. So it's like starting to think about not just booking a Zoom call, like how are you going to make that experience for that person genuinely beneficial, and it feel like it's a client experience, even though they're sat at home. That's
such a good idea. I love that idea. And you know, it's all about engagement as well. Engagement's been such a big concern, I think, with going virtual. You know, how do you engage your clients, your staff, your members? So that's a really good tip, and I've not heard anything like that, so I really like that. And video marketing's been a really big thing this year, and you know, you work in marketing, I work in marketing. How do you think, you know, where is it going? Where do you see marketing going next year? Do you think there'll be more video, more live streams?
Yeah, definitely. I think video and live stream, it's so engaging, right? Just like, you know, I love audio though. I love podcasts, and definitely think that, you know, that there's room for podcasts definitely in the B2B world. I don't know enough about B2C, but I listen to a lot of B2C podcasts. So I assume that probably is the has the same sort of that's the same sort of thing there. But I think we have to be mindful that we're going to be living in some sort of semi state of virtual interactions, for live interactions, and really we've started to call it a hybrid. So a hybrid live versus online or digital sort of strategy. And I think it's about just understanding and really, really getting to know your audience. So, there's lots of different social networking video apps and stuff like that. I won't say the names of them, but everybody knows that people have been using one predominantly, and it's a lot and it's got a lot of followers, and it's doing really well. And so I really I think that's great, and I think that platform works in certain areas, but I think everyone should be just mindful of understanding their consumers and their customers.
Absolutely.
And if your consumers and your customers are using said app, then that's great. That's perfect. But certain consumers, have been looking at, like, I was reading something the other day. I wasn't actually reading it. It was a video. It was a video that came out, and it was SimilarWeb that had this video, and they were looking at what people were searching for, and they found out that more people searched for philanthropy this year than ever. More people searched about DIY and home improvement, and sort of sites that were websites that were focused on that type of content were more visited than ever before. So it's about understanding your audience, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're a company that specializes in artisan paints, then a social media app where people are dancing and watching videos is probably not for you. So I think it's a really difficult one to say, like, what's going to be the next big thing for 2021. And I'm going to be honest, given what's happened in 2020, I'm not going to give a prediction because I don't know. I'm not.
That is very true.
But I would just say, I think marketers, if you're going to be smart going into 2020, I would say really go back to understanding who your audience is, what their motivations are, where are they, what interests them, and focus really on that, but not in the old school like pen portrait type way of like, Jimmy is a product marketer and he does because what Jimmy does on the weekend and all that kind of stuff is totally irrelevant. But what trade magazines does Jimmy read? Like, look at the website of Jimmy's company, for instance, like what backlinks are driving traffic to that website. I think I did a course recently with a company called Growth Tribe. It was a growth marketing course. It was a 6-week immersive course, and I did it because I wanted to do it actually, but I've always kind of been putting it off. But then when we got into what was called lockdown 2.0, I don't know what lockdown we're on now, I just thought, let me just book it and do it in the evenings for 6 weeks, because I've got the time and space. And for me, it was one of the best things that I actually have done this year. It gave me a lot of different ways of looking at marketing problems, but applying that to or marketing problems that I have at Unruly, and sort of finding out ways of experimenting really to try and solve those problems and drive growth. So I'd also say for marketers, like, you don't have to have the answers about what there is to do in 2021. I don't think anyone does, but you need to keep learning and adapt and change, and take the learnings that you have from, doing a webinar, have a retrospective. So we really have retrospectives where we talk about the event and we say what went well, what didn't do well, what would we do next time, what would we not. And you've got to keep doing that, because it's fun from all that kind of stuff. That's where you're going to get your growth. That's where you're going to actually get a sweet spot of what's amazing.
Absolutely. And for marketers listening, what advice would you give them to, engage their customers online, if they're using video marketing, what would you recommend for them to remember?
Well, I think going back to my earlier point, if you don't understand your audience,
yeah, it's a big thing.
then you cannot communicate with them effectively or be able to, every marketer is going to have their own thing, for instance. Like, so, when you're looking at a traditional marketing funnel and stuff like that, and different companies will have, a different emphasis on different areas of that marketing funnel and what you can kind of do to drive people down there. But I would say you can't do any of that if you don't actually understand the person that you're trying to market to, right?
Yeah, and it's so easy to forget. That's a really good point. Just always keep them in the back of your mind.
Yeah, you've really got to have a think about what is important to them and what are their motivations. So if you're, I talk B2B because I am a B2B.
Yeah.
If your job is to drive someone to sign up to a specific platform, what are the needs and the motivations of that person to sign up for that platform? Like, is it going to make their life easier? Is it because it's going to make them look better in front of their boss? Is it because if they look better in front of their boss, they're going to get a promotion? And then have a think about those motivations and needs, and how do you create a marketing strategy, whether that's events based or content based or what have you, that really talks to those motivations. Because that's when it's going to resonate with somebody and they're going to, engage. Whereas if I'm getting messages, and I have them a lot, people just harass me on LinkedIn or keep sending me emails to my work email, and sometimes my personal email, I don't know how you got it. But they haven't done their research. They're either talking to me as though I have a different job, or they don't understand my job. They haven't done their research because I'm probably often not the person that they need to speak to. It would be somebody else on my team that's actually responsible for doing that. And I'm more likely to sign off a contract on something or a platform if a member of my team has gone and done some research and comes to me and is like, Lou, I've got this problem and I found this provider that's going to be the solution to that. I'm more likely to interested in it if they come to me than I am if Joe Blogs off the street does.
That's a really good point. Always personalize. If you are going to sell on LinkedIn or pop someone an email, personalize it. Look into their background. Spend 5 minutes just understanding what they do.
I think it's in some ways, it's quite sad though that people think they can just shoot off these emails and think that they're gonna get a response, because they're really not. Especially when I can tell that you actually don't know what I do. Why would I go and spend money with somebody who doesn't fundamentally understand what I do? So therefore, if you're a marketer, why would you want to give that impression to the people that you're trying to market to, right?
Absolutely. And I know previously you mentioned, you work with publishers. How do you think that kind of industry has been impacted with the last year?
Well, I think brilliant segue into the fact that this wasn't planned.
This wasn't planned.
We've done some research. We did some research into consumer habits and how that's changed post-pandemic. And one of the things that we sort of saw was that there's been an increase in people watching connected TVs. So that's like TV powered by the internet. And then obviously there's been an increase in podcasts, listening to podcasts as well, and the radio. I listened to something online that radio's actually done very well out of this. Obviously traditional TV is always a strong player and stuff like that, but for us one interesting thing that we've started to see is that the growth of CTV, and people now are becoming so much more familiar with all the different sort of SVOD, so subscription video on demand services, and then the traditional broadcasters who also have their video on demand services. And then there's lots of new players that are now starting to emerge, like Pluto TV and Roku and stuff like that. And people are starting to now dabble and look at sort of ad funded video on demand sort of services as well. So I think for me, I think in 2021, that's definitely an area that I think is just going to get bigger and grow. And so it would be a nice sort of area to start testing out and testing and learning.
Absolutely.
Also budget wise, traditional TV is very expensive.
It is,
but connected TV isn't, and so therefore the entries to barrier are a lot smaller. So I think there could be quite a lot of appeal from sort of direct to consumer brands and startups, even B2B brands as well as your mass broadcast big brands as well.
That's it's super interesting, and it's just been a really strange year for everyone. I think, no matter what industry you're in, you've been impacted in some way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the vast majority of industries have been impacted. Obviously, live events, but one thing has been impacted quite a lot. I just finished my sentence there, but. One of the things I would say, and this is the forever optimist in me, is that it was also provided us with a lot of opportunity. I said this to my team, actually. I was so surprised when we actually sat down and we took stock and we looked back on 2020 and we actually realised how much we'd done. Did a lot of stuff. We really did a lot of stuff, and we learned and we had to push ourselves. So one of the great things about this whole sort of, I'm going to say awful year, challenging year, has been that it has fueled growth, it has fueled innovation, it has pushed people to look into different things. New businesses have started, new sort of areas of growth have begun. So, it's been difficult, but I just hope that we can build on what we've learned, and my team can feel very proud of themselves for what they've done this year, because I'm very proud of them.
Oh, that's such a lovely message, and that's a really good way to finish our 30 minutes. It absolutely flies by. Thank you so much for coming on, Lou. It was super interesting to find out more about you and Unruly. For the people listening, where can they come and find out, and contact you?
Oh yeah, find me on LinkedIn. My name's Lou Nylander. We've got an Unruly page on LinkedIn. We've got an Unruly website. Unruly.co. You'll find us.
Nice and easy.
Unruly, and we yellow. Yellow will be everywhere.
Nice and easy. Thank you so much for coming on today. And that ends our podcast series of 2020. So what a lovely day to end on. If anyone's listening right now and they want to reach out, they'd like to be in Lou's position and come on the podcast, or if you just have questions about how you can make your online events simple, then pop me an email at rian@eventmindpro.com. We hope you have a lovely Christmas, and we'll see you all in the new year.